Hello, upper cervical doctors and students. Welcome back to the UCM podcast. I'm Dr. Bill Davis here with you today and going to answer a question that we hear a lot at UCM, and that's what should upper cervical practices budget for marketing? And this is, part of that 2025 practice playbook. We're really going to look at some things here related to practice overall over these next few months and look at this practice playbook idea. And one of the key ones is, how much should you budget for marketing? Everyone knows that you have to spend some money on marketing in order to grow. I mean, if you're in that place where it's like, you know what, I'm only going to rely on referrals, that can only take you so far, especially when you're newer in practice. And so most people will understand, I've got to spend some money on marketing. How much should I actually spend? And so we're going to look at that question in detail today to really give you a good understanding of this. And, it comes down to this. If you've ever wondered why, even with a stellar patient experience, right, you're taking great care of patients, people are getting well in your office, your upper cervical practice isn't growing as fast as you'd like, it very well is likely related to your marketing budget, not spending enough to help you reach enough people in your community. And so, it's not only about how good your care is. It can also be about how visible it is. How many people know about you? How many people know about you in the community and know that you're there and know that you can help people with a variety of different health conditions find hope and healing. And so if you're frustrated because referrals or word of mouth alone haven't delivered enough new patients into your upper cervical practice, or you're stuck wondering if investing in marketing is worth the cost, today we're diving into how much you should be setting aside for marketing in 2025. And this is backed by data, real world benchmarks, and your clinic's unique needs. And so trying to give you as much understanding of this as possible so you can make good decisions when it comes to your upper cervical practice growth stage and what your goals are when it comes to the growth of your practice. So let's start with the benchmarks. And this is based on a variety of sources that are, that you can find if you do extensive research and look at what are healthcare practices in general spending, right? So that's the first thing to ask. So if we look at all healthcare practices, dental practices, optometrists, medical practices, physical therapy, all healthcare practices, the industry-wide average is about 7.7% of revenue is what healthcare practices spend on marketing. 7.7% of revenue. If you look at musculoskeletal clinics, you get a little bit more specific and you get into like physical therapy clinics, osteopathic clinics, these types of clinics, they're spending about 5 to 8%. So still in that, 7.7% is still pretty close. If you look at chiropractic, right, the chiropractic range is a little bit wider. It's anywhere from 5 to 15%, depending on goals. And so we're going to get into, who should be spending 15% and who should be spending 5% as we get more in detailed on this. But that's the range, 5 to 15% of your revenue, So your monthly collections, your average monthly collections, you should be spending on marketing based on best practices. And so let's talk about what influences budget size. So, that 5 to 15%, it's a big range. What influences how much you should be spending? Well, one thing is your stage of practice. If you're brand new in practice versus you are established, you've been in practice for 20, 30 years, that's going to dramatically influence your budget size for marketing. A new practice needs to spend more on marketing. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Growth ambitions also influence budget size. So if you're aggressively looking to grow your practice or scale it or open multiple locations, those types of things, then you need to be spending more on marketing, right? If you are more of a moderate, steady growth goals, then that it should influence your budget, reduce it closer to that 5% probably. And then some key metrics to think about when it comes to marketing in general, but definitely marketing budget as well, is client acquisition cost, or CAC, client acquisition cost, and return on investment. Those are two key metrics to help you really understand not only how much you should be spending on marketing, but where you should be spending money on marketing as well. So we'll get more into that in a minute. So let's get into marketing budgets by growth stage. Earlier this year, Tony and I released a book called The 7 Growth Stages of Upper Cervical Practice. If you haven't got the book yet, you can pick up the book over on our website, ucmgrow.com. 7 Growth Stages of Upper Cervical Practice looks at those 7 different stages that a practice can go through during the life of the practice. And we're going to look at those growth stages, and depending on where you are in those growth stages, help you to identify how much you should be spending on marketing based on your goals and on your growth stage. So let's take a look at the first stage. So the first practice growth stage is when you're in solo practice and you're collecting less than $20,000 per month. Typically, this is a practice that is just opened recently, within 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or it's a practice that has kind of stalled in growth and it's stuck in maybe that $10,000, $15,000, $17,000 a month range, and it hasn't been able to figure out how to break through to the 20K or more per month. And so in this stage, this is really the stage where you should be spending the most percent of revenue on marketing. And it can be difficult to do this. It can feel like you're overspending because you don't have a lot of money to spend on anything, right? This is a very tight time in upper cervical practice. And that's why before you start your practice, it's key that you have enough money set aside in your reserves and whatnot, and the money that you're using to start the practice to actually market, right? So many doctors will open a practice, they'll spend everything they have on equipment and on, their location and whatnot, and then they don't have money for the things that are going to actually move the needle to grow the practice, such as hiring a CA or spending money on marketing to help you to grow the practice. Now, the key thing with practice growth stage 1 is you've got to really build visibility from scratch. When you're in this position where you're collecting less than $20,000 per month, not enough people in the community know about you, right? So you have to get involved in the community. So some things that you can do are low cost or no cost, right? Going out and just meeting people, for instance. Building a health practitioner referral network can be very low cost, and it also has a great return on investment. So getting out there and meeting other health practitioners within the community, having an event, it's like a provider night or a study group where you invite everybody to come to your practice and spend time learning from one another, growing and understanding each other, beginning to refer to one another. That is a great long-term strategy. You can also do things like networking, which may cost, may cost some money for the events, or if you're in a B&I group, and those types of things. You can do things like screenings or workshops. Those may cost money for one-time events. But the other thing you also want to be doing in practice growth stage 1 is beginning to build your visibility online, right? So not just offline, but online. You've got to be able to build that reputation online. And it starts with a great website. You want to have a website that can be easily found, and that people, when they land there, they convert into new patients. And this is part of our Start Right program. We have a Start Right program to really help with all of these things that are involved with the online visibility side of it, including the website with the SEO and conversion optimized, and then also like your Google business profile optimization, helping you to get your initial reviews, getting video testimonials. These are really important initial steps when it comes to building your reputation online. Like getting your first 25 Google reviews is a must. You want to try to get those done in the first month, and then starting to really get some video testimonials and start creating some doctor videos, building that online visibility is so key. But you also want to be able to spend some money on marketing in that first stage. You got to at least have a basic outlay of money that you're spending to start to generate leads, right? Because more leads will lead to more new patients, and that will lead to a more money that you can then spend on marketing and continue to grow the practice. So at this stage, your name isn't known yet. Marketing is the fuel to get you noticed, even if it can temporarily feel like overspending, right? So that's the key, is you've got to spend a little bit more in practice growth stage 1 in order to grow to practice growth stage 2. And now practice growth stage 2 is when you are still in solo practice, but you're collecting more than $20,000 per month. Typically, you're in that $20,000 to $40,000 a month range. Some doctors will go beyond that, depending on how many staff they have and their systems and their cost structures and so forth. But a typical practice growth stage 2 practice is in that $20,000 to $40,000 a month range, and is in solo practice. And regardless, we would say if you're in solo practice and you're collecting more than $20,000 per month, you're in practice growth stage 2. And if you're unclear on any of these stages, you can always, not just on the book, but you can go to our website and find your current growth stage. We have all this information on there to help you. And it's really helpful to know what stage you're in, so you can identify what you need to be doing in that stage in order to grow to the next stage. So when it comes to practice growth stage 2, if you're in this range, solo practice, 20 to 40K per month, consistency, credibility is really important. You want to continue to build the reviews, get as many reviews as you can. Make sure you have an effective website that will generate new patients for you, that will get consistent conversion when people land there. And that steady social media presence is also real important in this stage, right? So having the consistent video content, the consistent posts online. Your budget percentage of revenue will go down slightly in practice growth stage 2. Instead of 10 to 15%, you're looking at more like 8 to 12% typically. This is also when you want to really have more consistent email nurture sequences, patient referral systems in place. We have specific plans for this stage. But the key with this, and that sometimes the issue also in this stage, is you can have capacity issues, right? Especially if you're at the higher end of the practice growth stage 2, where maybe you're collecting $50,000 per month, you may not be able to get more new patients in because you're only one doctor and you need to be able to hire an associate in order to continue to grow that practice. You may also have team issues, right? Where you haven't clearly identified roles within the team, or you don't have the right team members on the team, or you need more team members, right? And you may also have system issues, right? System issues could be related to a lot of different things within the practice that can also limit marketing potential. So the goal here is to move, though, from survival mode, which is kind of that practice growth stage 1, to more of a steady growth, right? Where you're creating reliable new patient inflow and you're establishing that community presence. You're getting to be well known within the community. And that will help you to then move out of practice growth stage 2 and into growth stage 3, where you've hired your first associate. And so when you're in practice growth stage 3, this is, again, a 2-doctor practice, right? So it's typically a clinic director with an associate collecting more than $40,000 per month. The average range here is, somewhere in that $40,000 to $80,000 range. And this is when your budget percentage of revenue can continue to go down slightly. Usually 7 to 10% is a good range. But this is also a time where you can be very aggressive, especially if you've just got your associate into the practice. If you have a brand new associate in there that needs their schedule to be filled, this is a time where you can really focus in on marketing, maybe spend a little more on marketing to build that practice up as quickly as possible. Because the greatest thing you can do for your practice at that time is to have your associates schedule be full, right? So balancing digital ads and with organic content, layering in educational authority marketing, blogs, videos, these types of things, and really having good solid tracking systems in place for cost per lead, for cost per acquisition. These types of things are really important. The practice is sustainable, but it needs momentum to grow beyond this plateau. Systems and tracking matter as much as ad spend. And this is really what, we love working with doctors who are in this stage to help them, address any systems and team issues, but also to really help them to accelerate the practice and really get it full, get both doctors up to full capacity. And that really comes with our Atlas engine, which is a tremendous AI-driven program to produce consistent new patients every month and fill practices up. And so this is really when, the Atlas engine is very, very powerful. Practice growth stage 4 is now when you are into a 3 or more doctor practice, right? So this is a clinic director with multiple associates. And typically they're going to be collecting over $80,000 per month. They can be, with multiple associates, you can really go, as high as possible, right? When you could have 2, 3, 4, 5 associates and collecting, $150,000, $200,000 a month. And so in practice growth stage 4, your budget percentage of revenue can go down slightly depending on where you are, right? But if you've just added a new associate, that's a time you really want to crank up marketing so that you can fill that new associate's schedule, right? If you have, multiple associates who are all established, everybody already has a full capacity schedule, then it's maybe time to back off marketing slightly before you can, until you can hire another associate. So, but in this stage, really, it's about making sure your retention is really solid. You have good reactivation campaigns in place to bring back inactive patients, but you also want to have really solid funnels in place that just get consistent new patients flowing into the practice. And you want to work on your website conversion, that when people land there, that number one, who they are, that you can retarget them. That's part of our Atlas engine as well, is that, our invisible lead ID, which is able to connect with people who land on your website or even who just search in your local area and retarget them through a variety of means. But also, this is also when you can selectively expand your ad spend on what's proven most effective, right? And that's what we love to do with our clients as well. As we're not just going to throw ad spend at the same thing over and over. If it's not working, we're going to continue to try different ad types, ad platforms in order to find what's going to work most effectively in your market. The key in practice growth stage 4 is that you already have consistent flow. Marketing here should be about efficiency and leverage and not just more spend for the sake of spend. Practice growth stage 5 is when you move from a 1 location to a 2 location practice. This is a 2 location practice, right? And this is 2 fully operational locations, right? So not a situation like where you have a doctor who is seeing patients at 2 different locations half time, like part time. You'll have doctors that are, I see patients over here 2 days a week, and I see patients over at this other location 2 days a week. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about 2 fully operational locations. Typically, this is a practice that has at least 3 total doctors, but more commonly 4 doctors or more. And this is, when again, this depends on when you are in this situation. If you just have launched your second location, then you need to be spending a lot on marketing. There needs to be a heavily marketing time, especially that first year. That 15% should be where you would want to be of revenue, and have that set aside even before you open the practice. But if you have an established 2-location practice that both locations are working and working well, then budget percent of revenue can go down. It can be in that 7 to 9%. It really depends on the situation with the locations, how new they are. But there's also other things to be focusing on with a practice growth stage 5 practice, where it's a 2-location practice. A recruiting pipeline is important. So not just recruiting new patients, but also team talent, getting enough CAs, getting enough associates, having that consistent flow of good talented people into your practices is really important. You also want to just broaden your community marketing, making sure that you're involved in the community, sponsorships, events, professional partnerships, these types of things that just ingrain you more and more in that community. Especially if you're in 2 different communities or in 2 different parts of a community, you want to really establish yourself there as the go-to brand for upper cervical healthcare. And then really doubling down on SEO and brand authority, video content, pay-per-click, these types of things, strategies that will consistently flow new patients into the practice, establish you online just as you want to be established offline as well. Because the key is, if you want to continue to add locations, move into the next stage of growth, or just even add associates, it requires keeping multiple schedules filled, right? Every doctor's schedule should be filled is the goal. Marketing must serve both growth and stability in this stage. Practice growth stage 6 is when you have 3 or more locations. This is, again, rare air within upper cervical practice, but it happens. And what we're talking about, again, is fully operational locations, meaning that these are they have a CA, they have a doctor that's specific to that location. It's not just a satellite, meaning that a doctor is there a few days a week. It's a fully operational location, 3 or more locations in practice growth stage 3. These are practices that are typically collecting more than $200,000 per month. And again, this depends on when these locations opened. Again, if it's a brand new location, it needs to be treated more like a brand new practice, and more marketing spend should be spent on it in that 15% range. But if it's 3 or more established locations that are consistently growing and full, then you can reduce your marketing spend down to 5 to 8%. But the key is you want to that multiple location brand building with consistent messaging, making sure that your culture is consistent. You may want to centralize ad management. We do that with some of our doctors who have multiple locations. Is just making sure that everything that we're doing is consistent. We're learning from the other locations, and we're growing all locations together, and making sure that we have really solid dashboards in this circumstance is important. When you have 3 locations, for instance, you want to be able to track ROI across all locations, and the dashboards that we have are really, really helpful for that. And you're managing complexity at this stage. Efficiency and scalability will outweigh just throwing more money at ads. You want to be focused on what's working and do more of it. And then the last practice growth stage 7, is when you're transitioning out of practice, right? So you're moving into retirement, you're selling your practice, you're moving into a different career, whatever it is. You're in that transitioning out of practice stage. And this is when you usually can back off marketing spend to a certain extent. You still want to be spending some. It may be 3 to 5%. You want to maintain stability. You want to make sure your reputation online, reputation offline are really consistently established, continuing to get reviews, continuing to have online presence, continuing to get video testimonials. These types of things are important. Making sure your referral network is strong. If you have health practitioner referral network, internal referrals, all these types of things. Because really what you want to be doing in this stage is you want to be marketing to support your practice valuation, right? Whatever you are evaluating your practice at, it's based on a consistent new patient flow so that your buyer can have more confidence. You're not trying to aggressively grow in this stage necessarily, but you want to to sustain a healthy, marketable practice for transition, right? So that's the 7 stages. Again, it's that, 5 to 15% is the range, and it will really depend if you're building a customized budget for 2025 or even into 2026. Some steps to think through is this. Number one is to clarify your goal. What are you looking to do? What are you looking to do for the rest of 2025? What are you looking to do into 2026? Are you looking to just maintain? Are you looking to grow the practice? Are you looking to scale the practice and open an additional location, for instance, right? So those all will have different goals that will lead to different marketing budgets. Step 2 is to set the percentage based on your growth stage, right? What we just talked about, practice growth stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will depend on how much you should be spending on marketing. You also want to look at things like competition and referrals and capacity, right? Do you already generate a lot of referrals? Are you generating a lot of referrals from health practitioners? Are you generating a lot of referrals internally? Is that, filling your schedule? Because that will depend on how much you should be spending on marketing as well. And then what's your capacity? Are you the only doctor there and you're already at max capacity? Do you have a 3, 4, 5 week waiting list? Then your highest priority isn't more new patients at that point. It's another doctor, right? It's bringing on that associate. So thinking about capacity issues is important as well, and tracking effectiveness and adjusting, right? So you want to start with some sort of a marketing budget and then adjust from there depending on all these different factors. So just some quick fire tips and recommendations. Keep your budget flexible, right? Adjust based on return on investment and goals. Prioritize high return on investment channels. Things that, you're hopefully, whatever you're using, if you're using us, you'll know what is working, what's not. But, SEO, email marketing, local outreach, advertising, all these different things, you should be able to track ROI in all the different channels. And then automating the follow-up and the patient nurturing. That's such a huge part of it. That's part of what we have with our Atlas engine is that constant follow-up AICA we have built into it. And then auditing those key metrics regularly to see what's working and what you should be spending more money on. And so I mentioned this a few times, just wanted to make sure that it was clear. The Atlas engine is our turnkey growth machine. Depending on where you are in practice, this may or may not be best for you. It's something that is going to help you generate a lot of new patients and convert a lot of new patients as well. But again, it depends on your practice, where you are in practice. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for a lot of new patients, or do you have other things that need to be prioritized first? This is the only AI-powered growth system built exclusively for upper cervical practices. It's built to connect with invisible website visitors and Google searchers, to book new patients while you sleep, to get high-quality leads from Google PPC and from Meta, follow up automatically, reactivate inactive patients, drive referrals, prove return on investment, and much more. And so that is a key thing for you to understand that is available to you, the Atlas engine. And really from here, the call to action is spend 5 to 10% of your monthly collections on marketing, right? So example, if you're collecting $40,000 a month in collections, you should be spending around $4,000 a month if you're looking to grow the practice, right? And so the key thing with all this is find out what is available and what is best for you in your practice growth stage. And to do that, you can go to ucmgrow.com, and you can get a demo of our Atlas engine if that makes sense for you. We have other plans that may be better for you depending on your situation, whether it's our Start Right or our Silver plan or practice growth sessions, a variety of different things. We have something to serve you no matter where you are in practice, because that's what we do, grow upper cervical practices all day long. And so go over to ucmgrow.com, get an initial consultation with our team, and find out how we can help you continue to grow your upper cervical practice. And as we always say around here, go team upper cervical.